I was dating this girl, Latina, and she was about 5'7", had long black hair that went down her back. She was slender. She had a great eye for style with her clothes, and she had a great sense of humor. And I remember one day she came over and had a plastic bag with her. She handed it to me and I looked inside. And in it, it was full of lemons that she had freshly picked from the tree at her parents' house. I remember the lemon fragrance filled my kitchen and it smelled amazing. And it was the perfect gift because I love putting lemon in my sparkling water. Her doing this really made an impression on me. She had remembered my fascination with the fact that here in California, fruit grows so readily on trees, which is very different from where I'm from. Now, a lot of people might think that there's nothing that special about this, but to me, this simple gesture touched me in a profound way. You know that saying, it's the thought that counts? I mean, it gets thrown around a lot, but when you think about it, it's really true. And I think in romance, people forget how much these gestures actually mean, especially when it comes to men, because at the end of the day, men are very simple creatures. We want loyalty, sex, good food, and a pretty girl to be by our side. There's not much to it. This bag of lemons didn't cost her anything. It was just knowing that before she came over, she had thought to herself, let me bring him something. So she dug out a plastic bag, went out to the backyard, selected what she thought would be the best lemons, pulled them off of the tree, put them in a bag, and then brought them over to me. All without being asked. It was straight from the heart, and as a man, this does mean a lot. Now, I hear from a lot of men who are frustrated by how a lot of modern women these days have a long laundry list of demands of what a guy must be. They gotta be tall, they gotta be successful, ambitious, confident, but not too confident. They gotta be masculine, but not too masculine. They gotta be religious. These guys cannot judge her looks, etc., etc. And men, in reality, we don't really ask for that much in return. So what's happening here is that women are demanding more and more, and men are just simply burnt out and not feeling reciprocated. And everyone is ending up alone and miserable. Now, I do get a lot of messages from women as well who want a relationship but say that they can't seem to find one. And I will say that some of the women I talk to are very sweet, very kind, whereas others, there's two things that they're not really being cognizant of, and that's one, having this long list of demands, and two, they're not self-aware enough to realize their own shortcomings. A lot of them are on the older side of the spectrum, so their choices of men is limited. And two, they haven't really kept themselves up that much to be attractive to the type of guy that they want to attract. Now, there are going to be barriers for both men and women in finding people sometimes, but you do have to be a little bit self-aware to realize what your shortcomings are and adjust your expectations. So in this episode, I invite you to listen with an open mind, take in what I say, even if some of it might cause a knee-jerk response for you to get upset. The goal here is to clarify things that a man should be looking for in a woman if he's considering a long-term relationship, as well as some pointers to women who also want a relationship but just can't figure out why they're not getting it. And when I say a relationship, I mean a long-term romantic relationship. I'm not just talking about hooking up and banging each other, because that shit is easy to do. And most of you guys are looking for something more substantial and more long-term. Today I am sipping on another Japanese whiskey called Tenjaku. I had this for the first time with a cigar, and I gotta tell you guys, it was fantastic. It's another really great whiskey from Japan. I highly recommend it. If you see it in the store, grab it. It's about $40 a bottle. It's not too expensive, but it's really good stuff. So in today's episode, I'm going to cover 5 things men should look for in a woman, which can be used as a guideline for men to consider when they're thinking about getting into a relationship. And women can use these things as well as a starting point if you're looking to get into a relationship with a man that won't simply be just a fling. We've also got a few other fun surprises, so without further ado, let's start the show. So here are 5 things men should look for in a woman he wants a relationship with. Now there are other things, but I'm bringing up 5 things that I think are very important. Now, an obvious answer to this is beauty, so I'm not going to talk about that one. Attraction is really not a choice. Every guy has their own preference in what they find attractive. Obviously, across the board, I would say a woman who is fit and in shape is something that is universal. All men will be attracted to that. But as far as how their hair is, or their eye color, skin color, all that stuff, every guy is going to have a little bit different preference. So we're not going to talk about that. But I do want to say that the things that I'm about to list, in order to get these things, you do have to be a man who has your shit together. You can't just be any loser in off the street. You gotta have, some personality, charm, your life in order. Otherwise, asking for these things, it's really a lack of self-awareness. I mean, you gotta be a man in a position to attract a woman who's gonna do these things, and also be a man worthy of even receiving these things. If you don't have your shit together, then you can't be asking for this kind of stuff. So the first thing is being cooperative. A girl who's cooperative means that she's ready to help out if you ask her. She's not going to be questioning or fighting against everything you ask. She has an attitude that wants to keep things easy and effortless, and if you need her to do something, she is willing to do it. So let me give you an example of what being cooperative is all about. So I remember I was holding an art exhibit. This was when I was in my 20s, and it was my first solo art show, and one of the projects involved some pretty large scale photo pieces. And my girlfriend at the time was right there, ready whenever I needed assistance. She was willing to roll up her sleeves and help assembling the pieces, transporting the work, and she made zero fuss about it. She did it with a smile. She wanted to see me succeed. And that level of cooperation with her was something that made her all the more endearing to me. When you've got a girl like this who wants to cooperate, who wants to help you, it absolutely makes your day. Now let's talk about the flip side of this. I had gone out with this girl who put up resistance whenever I had asked her to do something. It came with questions like why, what for, how come. I had to explain everything that was going on all the time. And from a man's perspective, when you're looking for help and having to explain yourself is a huge turnoff. I mean, obviously I'm doing something for a reason, and if I ask for help, the last thing I want to do is stop and get bogged down in explaining everything. I'm not going to ask for help unless I need it, and so questioning everything I'm doing is going to make a man feel incompetent and as if you do not trust him. And the constant rebuttal from her made her very unattractive to me. I went out with her a short time before I eventually called it quits. And I think this goes for a lot of men, because normally we like to do things on our own. We want to be self-sufficient and do things for our girl or for the family. And so when you do ask for help and they're constantly questioning and asking and doubting, it really puts a dent in our feelings towards you.
Men never cease to amaze me. Some guys don't think twice about the cologne they use. But a cologne says a lot about a man. And I think the cologne that says it best is English leather. English leather has a clean, masculine scent. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, a man should wear English leather, or nothing at all. Look, I don't fall for a guy just because he wears a nice cologne. But I know what I like, and I like a man to wear English leather, or wear nothing at all.
Now, the second thing to look for in a woman is if she is supportive. So I'm a busy guy. I got either work projects going on or my own personal projects going on. Whatever it is, I am continuously working on something. Having a woman who supports these things, either with the things that she says or the things that she does. I mean, is she cooking you a meal to replenish you after a long day? Does she do her best to keep things neat and tidy and organized so when you guys are together, it's just nice and relaxing and not a mess? These are all things that are incredibly valuable, and as a man, they are very greatly appreciated. So like I just mentioned, I've got a lot of different projects going on. And one of my girlfriends was a huge supporter for whenever I got really busy with things. She'd not only take time to, chit-chat about certain ideas that I had, would also do small things like bring a dessert or cook dinner for me when she knew I was busy. Even small little things like wishing me success on a project and verbally saying it or sending me a text message were all things that were very powerful. And again, these things cost her nothing, but having that little support was huge. And she'd always be sure to show up to events that I was doing or other activities that I was involved in. And, I think a lot of women do these things, and this is something important to look at as a man. Does the woman you're with do these things? Because if she does, then this type of behavior should be acknowledged and rewarded. Let her know that you appreciate these things. It can be really simple. All you need to say is, hey, sweetheart, thank you so much for doing that. I really do appreciate it. And of course, she's got to earn these things. Don't just be flowering her with compliments for no reason. But if she does things for you, let her know. All right, now on the flip side, I went out with this girl, and the funny thing is, her name was Angel. But she was the farthest thing from it. Now, she was cute, this fun Asian girl, very attractive, but she was a diva. And I don't care how good you look, if you act the way she acted, I am out. So here's what happened. I was on a shoot one day, and I got out pretty late, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So I was headed home, and she called me as I was driving. And she and some friends were at a bar somewhere in downtown Los Angeles, and she wanted me to come and join her. And I said, hey, look, I'm sorry, but not tonight. I was tired from the shoot. I just want to head home and settle in for the night. But she kept insisting that I should come out for just one drink. And I told her, I'm going to pass because I want to just go home and rest. So then after I said that again, she said, well, hey, why don't you just come over to my place and stay there instead? And so I said to her, hey, look, I'd love to see you another time, but tonight I'm just going to chill at home. And if you want to come to my place after you're done, you are more than welcome to do that. Well, that didn't sit well with her. She ended up just hanging out with her friends and never came over. Now, on the surface, this might not seem like the worst thing to have happened to you, to get asked to come get a drink, but it wasn't so much that. It was me explaining that I was tired, and her tone was just very demanding. She was almost like whining and pouting that I wouldn't come out and hang out for that particular evening, especially since I had just seen her the night before. It would have been great for her just to say, oh, okay, sure, go get some rest, and I'll stop by later tonight. Now, this is the opposite of being supportive. This is being self-absorbed and inconsiderate at best. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't interact with many women who behave like this. Honestly, I don't know many women who act like this, but I know that they are out there because I hear about this kind of stuff from different guys. But this is absolutely no way to support a man. As a guy, what would have been nice would have been as if she enjoyed her time with her friends and then came over later to spend some time with me. Maybe she could have brought something to eat or whatever. It doesn't have to be huge, but these are the kinds of things that make a girl endearing to a man. We're not asking for the world, just a little consideration. And these tiny gestures are what draws a man to a woman. It's going to be what connects him to a girl and causes him to care for her more and more, especially a man who has his shit together and is busy. You're becoming an essential part of his life. Now, of course, there are going to be some simps who I'm sure would run along like a puppy dog and give in to her every whim, her beck and call. But of course, these are the dudes that get dumped. Now, in this situation, she's the one that got dumped. I was like, ciao, baby.
If I were you, I'd rather try something different.
What are you talking about?
It's Jurors 12. Enjoy it now. Someday, you'll understand.
Sean? It's me.
Just remember, some age, others mature.
All right, the next quality to look for is if she is understanding or not. Now, this is something I don't think a lot of women realize, but when a man is having a tough day, it's not about the woman. Women do have this tendency to take that shit personally and get in their head if their man wants to be left alone for a while. And sometimes a man just can't find the words to explain what's going on with him right away, and he simply needs a little time to be alone. We gotta churn on that for a little bit, work through it ourselves, and a woman who has the confidence to simply let us be and know that it's not about her. Now, this is extremely attractive and powerful. So going back to my girlfriend, who was really supportive and cooperative, she was also very good at understanding when I needed my space. So like if I was having a rough day, She'd ask what was wrong, but if I said, hey, I can't talk right now, she'd be totally cool with that and give me the space. She'd go in the other room and do her own thing. She would not take it personally at all. And she wouldn't necessarily poke and prod, with that need to figure out what was going on because she was insecure that it had something to do with her. I've noticed this a lot with some women is that they think that's about them and that they need to know right away what's going on with him. She would never do that. She would just let me be and go off doing her own thing. She was really good at understanding that people simply have good days and they have bad days and did not take it personally. Men just need time alone sometimes, so you gotta let them have it because they'll eventually come back. And as a man, I appreciate when I know that a woman has my back, but she gives me the breathing room to figure it out. A lot of the times women want to know what's going on just to make sure it has nothing to do with them. And, this is just a big no-no because now the man not only has to deal with what's bothering him, but now he's got to worry about you freaking out. So if you find a woman who understands this and has the confidence just to let you be for a while and does not take it personally, that's a really, really great sign. Now this leads me into another girl who I dated who had a really tough time with this. So if I had something on my mind and just needed a little chill time, it became all about her. She needed that attention on her and it would just eat her up not knowing what was on my mind. I mean, this was basically a case of her just being really insecure and she just had that burning desire to know what was going on. And, this type of behavior is a huge turnoff for men because men don't want to talk about things right away. Women, on the other hand, have this desire to share their feelings, to talk it out, to paint the scenario and see what others think, to get a sort of social validation for what they're going through. And that's totally fine. I mean, I think, men and women just handle it differently. Women can do it their way, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think men should understand how women operate because it will help them understand them much better. But women need to understand how men work, and men don't operate like this. We need to contemplate, we need to ruminate, put the puzzle together in our own minds for a while. We need to sit with our emotions and let them chill out before we are ready to chat. So if you're a guy out there who's got a woman who really understands and gives you that space without the neediness, then this is a green flag. But let me give you a tip here. As a man, the one thing that you can do if she seems like she isn't quite understanding this is to just explain calmly that you appreciate her concern, but you just need a little time to sort through your thoughts. Vocalize this, because I'd say most women, if you say that, will understand. And if she doesn't, if she's really pushing back hard, that's not a good sign. Because with a woman like this, you're going to be constantly explaining yourself and appeasing her insecurities. And that, in the long run, is going to be a big headache and struggle. And you don't want to deal with that.
Here's George Burns for El Producto Cigars.
These resort hotels are wonderful. Fresh air, exercise, spectacular scenery. Of course, I'm not on a vacation myself. I'm helping men get acquainted with El Producto cigars. Men who change to El Producto seldom change cigars again. I even have an assistant. Skilled help is hard to get these days. El Producto, please. Gentlemen, El Producto cigar.
Well, thanks. Say, aren't you,
Jack of Hearts. Light, please.
Hey, this tastes great.
Right. El Producto is the cigar with age in its flavor. Slow aging really makes it mild.
I like the shape, too.
Give a guy a cigar and right away he's a comedian. Give him an El Producto and he seldom changes cigars again. Try George's cigar, El Producto. Might even lend you my lighter.
All right, the next one on the list is if she is thrifty. Now, I don't hear a lot of people talk about this, but being thrifty is a next level quality for a woman that a guy should look out for that really puts a woman in a special spot. Why is this so special? Well, this shows that she has an appreciation for the hard work it takes to make money and support a family. Now, this isn't to say that she needs to be cheap by any means. I mean, that's not what I'm saying, but she simply, if she's thrift-wise, that is a really beautiful thing to have. Because it means that she realizes when it's unnecessary to spend a lot so that money can be used for bigger and better things. It's this sort of unspoken gesture that a man who works hard will appreciate. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have dated women who have absolutely no regard for spending money. And I'm sure you guys have probably met women who are more thrifty. And I think there is something very attractive about this quality that you guys will agree with. Some women have this princess complex and want to have everything, and they want their man to blow all his money on bullshit kind of stuff. I mean, it's almost like that ghetto fabulous instead of actually building wealth and savings. And this is going to drain a man. This is very unattractive. And I'm certainly not saying that a man should be cheap, because I'm not for that either. But a woman should understand the value of money and not want to spend constantly on frivolous things. So one of my girlfriends really excelled at this, and she was really good at finding small ways to save money here and there. And those small things then obviously added up to bigger things. It saved a lot of money. And she came from humble beginnings herself and had struggled with money when she was younger. So she really had an understanding of what it meant to earn money. And so she would always be finding different deals for restaurants or Groupons or amusement parks, airplane tickets, things like that. And, from a man's perspective, this is really intelligent behavior, and we certainly appreciate that. It shows a bigger concern for the unit of you guys together versus just me, let's spend. So, guys out there, if you've ever gone out with a girl like this, or if you are currently with a girl like this, that's a great sign. Now, on the other hand, there's always the other hand. I went out with a girl who was very frivolous with her money. She spent it the moment she made it and was always broke. She told me that money literally burned a hole in her pocket. And I felt bad for her because she was consistently broke. And, this lack of financial intelligence really can grate on a man's nerves. And I'm not saying that she has to be wealthy or rich by any means, but just having some basic knowledge of how to save money, that's huge. Now she was actually a very sweet and kind girl, but her lack of that financial discipline was a deal breaker. And the thing about her was that it ran in her family. Her parents were the same way. People can outlearn things that they grew up with, but it certainly is something to look for when you're starting to get to know a girl. So if you're a woman out there that wants a man to take care of you, well, you just simply cannot be like this, regardless of if you work or not. You've got to be able to add to the man's life in a good way, not in a way that causes more stress and headache. So the final quality that I'm going to talk about if you're looking for a woman to get into a long-term relationship with is, does she follow your lead? I would never advise a woman to follow a man unless he had the qualities of being a strong, masculine leader in her life, because following men who are weak is going to only get her in trouble. Now, I'm going to clarify, though, being a strong man does not simply mean having muscles. Because I'm going to be honest, I am not a jacked bodybuilder type. I'm I have a very normal build. Bodybuilder stuff, it's just not really my style. I respect the men who do that, but it's not my style. But I do consistently work out and I eat healthy. And so, I'm in shape. So you got to become a guy that a woman actually wants to follow. And in order to do this, you have to be dependable. You have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to come up with solutions to problems without complaining. And of course, you always got to maintain a sense of humor and playful charm. You have got to have the charm. This is probably the thing that I stress the most is you got to have a little humor and charm to yourself. Because if you're a serious dud, I don't care how strong you are, it's tough to be with. So what does a woman who follows your lead look like? A woman who follows your lead is a woman who can let go of being in control. She's going to trust your lead and let you decide things. So, for example, if you've planned a date, she's not going to demand knowing what it'll be, what's going on, where you're going to go, all that kind of stuff. Because I've seen women who are like this. They're so high strung and need to know every last detail that it completely takes the wind out of a man's sail for the event that he's planned. Women who are great to be with and who follow your lead happily say, okay, and is ready at the time that you have designated. And she's actually grateful for the effort that you have put into it, and she shares that with you. When you lead and a woman follows your lead, you feel like $1 million. And by doing this is a man's gift to a woman. You're letting her completely be at ease and be in her feminine energy. And this is what is natural for both men and women. So, the women out there who are listening, take note. Let your man lead. And if you have that need to be in control of everything, you gotta force yourself to let go. All right, now let's talk about the bad experience that I had. I think this girl was maybe her second date or something like that. And I told her, like, look, hey, I'm going to pick you up at 7 o'clock on such and such date. Throw on a cute dress and some heels and I'll be there at 7. And immediately she was like, well, why? What are we doing? Do I have to wear heels? And I mean, it completely sucked the life out of it. I was looking forward to taking her out, but after that, it completely sucked the life out of it. And she ended up wearing what I'd asked her to wear in the end, but having to go through the 20 questions was just a major pain in my ass. She had such an aggressive and masculine tone that I was completely turned off by her. And this was just how she was. She had some bad experiences with men, and so she was very combative with them. And I can understand that, but she didn't have the self-reflection to realize what she was doing. And she was very stubborn and resistant. And after that date, I never saw her again. And this is what happens, a man who is ready to lead and nurture a great relationship will simply not put up with that shit. Only simps are going to do that. And, guys who are pushovers that most women are going to be repulsed by. And that's the kind of guy that she's most likely going to end up with. If you're a masculine, tough woman, you're going to get a weak sauce dude that you're not going to be attracted to. So those are 5 qualities that I recommend guys look for in the women that they're looking to date long term. If they have these qualities, that's a really huge green flag. And I think some of the women out there after hearing this might think that, hey, I have all of those qualities, but the men I attract still don't treat me right. And I can see that being the case because I've talked to a lot of you who are very sweet and kind, and you still run into douche lords. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be a little bit harsh, but that is going to be a you problem. And why this is a you problem is because there is something that is blocking you. There's either some sort of a self-esteem issue, or it's something that you can't see, that you're just falling for the bad boys over a more worthwhile man to spend time with. A lot of the women that I've talked to do have some self-esteem issues, They're very sweet and kind, but they repeatedly go to the bottom of the barrel. And then they get frustrated with how they get treated. One of the best ways to get through this is doing a little bit of therapy. I mean, there's no shame in the game if you go and try to figure out reasons as to why you behave the way that you do. But I would recommend that you also vet the therapist. If there's someone that's just going to blame men for everything, that's not going to help you. That's going to put you in an even worse position. I would say that most women have good instincts on whether or not a man is a loser or a player or whatnot, but they do choose to ignore these things. So you're going to have to, take that self-responsibility to make sure that you're listening to your own instincts and don't prolong it with a guy that you just can tell there's not really much of a future here. Thanks for tuning into the show. For more Sophisticated Scoundrel, you can follow me on Instagram at The Sophisticated Scoundrel. You can also find me at the main account, which is Miami Vice Life, where I post regularly and I'm very active in the stories. If you're in need of any advice, you can message me at Miami Vice Life, or if you'd like to book a more in-depth one-on-one session with me, I also offer coaching services where I help you get through any struggle, relationship issue, or challenge you happen to be going through. Links are in the bio at Miami Vice Life for you to book a 1-hour session with me. If you'd like to support the channel in any other ways, you can subscribe and share these videos with friends or family. You can also leave a 5-star review at wherever you listen to the podcast, or give it a thumbs up on YouTube or Rumble if you watch it there. The messages, comments, and reviews truly do help the show rise in the ranks and get the message out there. And if you haven't done so already, I invite you to come along and subscribe to the channel. The evening is young, the drinks are strong, and I wish all of you a good night. We'll see you next time.